And welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince, and I'm here with my co-host Stevie D. Stevie D, we had ourselves a very, very interesting week in the NFL.
It all comes around the New York Jets. That's all I gotta say.
It does, you know. As we fade into the twilight of the Jet season, right? You think that there's going to be a little bit of a decline in Jet talk. Nope.
Oh no!
Nope. The boys from Jersey doing themselves proud. That was an easy rim shot to do.
Yeah. That was good.
But let's just jump right into it. I mean, there's no better way to jump right into it than Mr. Antonio Brown and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, let me set the stage for everybody, right? Here I am, transfixed on my Bills Falcons game, right? I'm all in. I need this game. I get this game. I know I'm in the playoffs. So you need some other factors, but I know I'm good. And all of a sudden, my phone lights up. Now remember, we have rules to the game, right? So only certain people are allowed to text mid-game, right? And it's like, check out what's going on with Antonio Brown. Now I'm in a quandary. What's going on, right? So I had to use my phone as the source of truth here to see exactly what was happening. Lo and behold, there's Antonio Brown running off the field. And I'm like, what? And then Antonio Brown, the message says Antonio Brown just quit. Is this a Vontae Davis type situation? Quit? What type of quit are we talking about, right? Because until Vontae, I hadn't heard of another player quitting mid-game, right? And there you go. And Stevie D, take it away because you were watching it. You were watching
I had front row seats, right?
Brett Burger, you are looking live.
Right. I mean, so I'm watching the game. My son and I are watching the game, and everything's going right for the Jets, right? 3:07 left into the third quarter. It's 24-10. Things were looking good. The Buccaneers were, driving, and then all of a sudden, and it was like in between plays, and then all of a sudden the camera went to the end zone, and at first you didn't know who it was until you zoomed in a little bit, and we're like, why are they cutting to pregame warmups? In the middle of a drive, they're cutting to pregame warm-up showing Antonio Brown jumping without a shirt on, trying to get the crowd going. We had no clue. And then all of a sudden it flashes back towards Brady, and then the announcers are saying something about Antonio Brown leaving the field. I'm like, what do you mean he's leaving the field? We're in the middle of a game. It was so confusing because we didn't know what was real and what was maybe pregame. And then the announcers are trying to figure it out live because why would a football player take off his jersey and jump around and then throw his gloves and his warm-up shirt? He had a black, probably like a shirt that soak up the sweat. He throws that in the stands. He throws his gloves in the stands. We're like, what? And he rides off to the sunset. And then it was like, as the driver's going, they're going back to the sidelines through other camera views to try and pick up what was going on. So then you're watching him in full pads talk to Mike Evans, and Mike Evans like, no, it's okay, right? Whatever he's saying, I have no idea what he's saying. He could say, man, you're right. I have no idea what he's saying. And you just see him, pulling off his gear. I'm like, what in the world? And then, then it was all just kind of speculation. Oh, Antonio Brown's, he's off his meds. He went nuts. And then obviously the last, couple of days, things are trickling out about the whole Antonio Brown thing and whatnot. But it was very bizarre. My son and I were just looking at each other like, what in the world is going on here? Because like you said, we've never seen anything like that in pro sports where somebody just takes his gear off and gives you the old, I'll see you later. I'll see you when I see you type of deal. And so I was just, and the kicker, there's one picture of it where the kicker has a football in his hand like he was doing some kicks into the netting. And you see him looking at Antonio Brown like, that's interesting. And then he turns his back and goes back to do his thing. It was just a weird sequence of events, and then some Jet fans had.
There he is, DVD.
I thought it was warm-ups. I swear to you, as I'm watching it right now, he's doing his warm-up. He's going to go back in. He's going to get his stuff on, and he's going to get ready to come out, for the coin toss. It was just, and then we flash back here, and I'm like, man, this is just so bizarre, just so bizarre.
I mean,
as you can see, the Bucs driving right there, right? It's just,
and this is courtesy of Fox NFL. All this is happening on the sideline, and then you go back, and there you are with the black T-shirt.
Because we didn't see that happen when it was going. See, there's the kicker.
Right, there's your punter.
This is where they kind of picked it up.
There's your punter right there.
The punter, right? So, but that when he was taking,
let's go back. Let's look at your punter. So here we go, and the punter has the look right about here. What are you doing?
Look at the cop. Look at the state trooper there. Like, what in the world? It's just.
Wait, look at this guy here in the red jacket. Like, should I be taking a picture of that?
Well, the guy in the NFL with the tan jacket vest on, he's looking the wrong way. Like, what are you doing? But then there was like stories that came out that he was trying to get a ride from a state trooper somewhere, and the troopers didn't even know he was a football player. Like. Because at one point they thought somebody ran onto the field. A shirtless guy just ran on the field. Like there was total confusion. It was a bizarre sequence of events, and now the stories are starting to come out, right?
And so here's what I hate. Again, I'm going back to this. Everybody's saying CTE, ring the bell.
Oh,
for
really? Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
They're going to bring in, what's his name? The guy who laid that devastating hit.
Perfect. They're going back to that Steelers-Bengals game where Burfitt just unloaded on AB. I mean, it was shoulder to head, and he was knocked out. But it's not CTE. But let's talk about this for a minute because first and foremost, DVD, what do they say? There's three sides to every story, right? And we'll always say that there's three sides. There's the Buccaneer side and Bruce Arians. There's an AB side. And then somewhere in the middle is what actually happened, right? Oh, hey, we got Jay with us. Hey, Jay. How are you?
Jay. He's pouring gasoline on there.
That one we know is not true because they tried to trade for him from Pittsburgh, and he was like, I'm not going to Buffalo. Oh, there's Terry. Can't stay. Have a great show. Thank you. Thank you. But again, there's always three sides. It's somewhere in the middle, and there's really only a few people, a handful, if that, and that may be too much, who know exactly what happened. Right.
So I wonder what happened at halftime. What are we missing at halftime? Exactly. Right, that may have kind of boiled over at halftime. Words were exchanged at halftime, and then Tony Brown not maybe coming out and playing in the second half, and everything's getting the game. Right? You don't know. There's so many variables that if you have a good locker room, it will never come out.
Right. That's right. So, and you're right. So let's chronologically just break this down. We're not going to go that deep into the story, but let's just break it down, right?
Let's break it down how well the Jets played up until that point and stymieing the Buccaneer offense for 30, I don't know, what was it, 30, 40, 43 minutes?
59 minutes to give up the anyways.
We'll get into that part of the game, but so, I mean, really, in all fairness, we did stymie their offense for a long period of time. So, way to go, Jets.
Okay, if we go back 2 years ago, right, when TB12,
no, I would have stayed during the game.
The Messiah decides he's going to come to Tampa because he wants to play with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That's what brought him down there. Plus, no state tax and the warm weather. We know why he chose Tampa. And when he comes to Tampa, he starts putting out some demands, right? I need Gronk, right? I need Leonard Fournette. Come on, Lenny, right? And lastly, he wanted Antonio Brown, and the Bucks are like, don't know if we can do that, right? Front office, and this is documented, right? We're not making anything up here. The Bucks were not in favor of bringing Antonio Brown in. However, TB12 said, nope, I need my guy. And so they brought him in, signed him to a 1-year deal, right? Antonio Brown has a decent season, right? I actually caught, 5 or 6 passes in the exhibition game and had a touchdown in the exhibition game. And he was integral. Like, oh, yeah, he was integral in everything that they were doing. Then the offseason comes, right? The Bucks still don't want AB. They are being praised and heralded for signing all of their free agents. All the guys from the 2020 team, they were going to bring back. But who's the last person to sign? It's Antonio Brown on a minimum with incentive-based type contract. And for the most part, he was okay in the season, right? But they still, in the back of their mind, they know this guy is a fire keg ready to blow. And then a few weeks ago, we have the infamous. Well, actually, before we go for a few weeks ago, Bruce Arians comes out, says, what did he say? Zero tolerance, right? And then he says he has a zero tolerance policy for this team.
Well, I don't know if he said that for the team. I thought he said he had a zero tolerance for Antonio Brown on the sign. I thought that's what he had, not necessarily for the team, more towards Antonio Brown when they signed him.
Okay, fair enough. So even more specific towards AB.
Yes.
Then we have the vaccine card issue, right? Now, here's where it really starts to get interesting, right? Because with the vaccine card, Evans, Godwin, Burnett, all healthy, right? And the Buccaneers are fighting, right? They're fighting up against the Packers, the Cowboys, the Rams, the Cardinals to try to get that number 1 seed. That they're fighting. And everything's going okay, right? They should have lost to Buffalo in the sequence, right? We all know about the officiating. I had to
just
get that.
To get that in.
I did. Haven't let it go. Have not let that go. But then it comes to the New Orleans game, I believe it was, where they lost 9-0. And that's the game, the last game of the suspension by the league for the fake vax card. But in that game, what happens? You lose Chris Godwin for the year. You lose Mike Evans for an undetermined amount of time.
That looked ugly, that injury.
It did. Look ugly, yeah. You lose Leonard Fournette for at least the remainder of the regular season, hopefully for the first week of the playoffs. These are 3 key guys to that offense that they lose. They also lose the game 9-0, right? Brady shut out, the whole 9. Everybody's talking about that. But now it's Judgment Day, right? And we can only guess if they were not to have had those injuries, would things be a little different the day that the suspension is lifted? But now that you have your top 2 wide receivers gone, Antonio Brown is now healthy and ready to play, right? Thank goodness we have a veteran wide receiver who Tom likes and depends on that he can put out there, right? So, but the Buccaneers, leading up to that, the Buccaneers had gone out on, I guess, to save face with Antonio Brown when questioned by the media, when questioned by the NFL. No, this is a valid vax card. There's nothing wrong, nothing to see here. So they put themselves on the line for a guy that they didn't want to have in the first place. And then lo and behold, they get egg all over the face. All over, right? Just scramble it up, right? You're cracking another one, scramble it up, and egg all over the face. So they're not happy. Arians isn't happy. Jason Light isn't happy. The Glazers aren't happy. The Buccaneers organization is not happy. TB12 probably isn't happy, but he's like, I need this guy, right? So now, what do? Well, we have to welcome him with open arms. Come on back, AB, right? Now all of a sudden Evans is starting to get a little healthy. Right? Keep that in mind, right? And you're relying on some of the other guys that you have as depth. And Gronk is starting to something happened with Gronk. Who knows? He went through a 2 or 3 game
Yeah. Yeah.
stretch where he was off. And so now we come to the game against the Jets, right? Now leading up to that game with the Jets, AB was held out of practice for what 2 or 3 days?
2 days. 2 days,
2 days
as far as I know. Yeah.
with a severely sprained ankle or something wrong with the ankle where he couldn't go. And we're even talking, because typically Friday's going to be a walkthrough, right? But he's held out of all these practices, and so then comes time for the game. He's not 100%, right? Because if he was close to 100%, he wouldn't have been listed on the injury report, which he was. B, he wouldn't have been held out of the practice. So we know these are things that we as football fans who follow this, we know this to be true, right? That's a fact, right? If A equals B and B equals C, then we know that A equals C, right? Are we good there? Yes.
Yeah.
So then the game is playing, and you have somebody who is probably between 70 and 80%. That's my guess.
He had days off at practice. He was more than 70, 80%. The guy just got shut down by the Jets. Okay? He had 3 catches for a measly 22
You've been waiting to say that
one. You're going through this. I'm like, can we just fast forward this? He got shut down by the New York Jets secondary. Okay? You saw him jumping in the end zone. Everything looked good. I didn't see anything wrong with the ankle. So, come on now.
But here's where the questions really lie, right?
Oh, you want to be serious now? Okay.
But here's where the questions lie. So he's coming in about 70 to 80%, right? I don't know, right? And obviously the Bucs felt he was good enough to get out there. He thought he was good enough to get out there. Halftime comes. This is where, to your point, right? What happened at halftime? Hey, Dana, how are you? So the question is, what happened?
No.
What happened at halftime? Because that's where everything started to go sideways, and we don't know, right? And nobody did he talk to the doctors? Did he talk to the training staff? Did he talk to the coaches? Who was he talking to? Did he talk to anybody? Comes out, and now we're in the third quarter, and I believe they had one series. And then he's back.
That was their second series, I think, of the third quarter.
Right. So they completed one series. I'll leave it to you. We need maybe go back and check. I don't even know if he was on the field for the series coming out of the second half. That I don't know.
Honestly, I don't recall because I wasn't, when players come in and out, I wasn't necessarily on top of he was in. I just know the Jets scored coming out of halftime. And then they had their series. So I believe they had multiple series in that third quarter. I think the Jets had 2, and then the Bucs had 2. And obviously the Bucs wound up scoring on that final drive of the third quarter to make it.
I'd love to find that out because Stevie D, if he comes out but is not playing in the series coming out of halftime,
it wasn't a story. I can tell you there was not a story anywhere in the first half and coming out of halftime where they asked coaches about players' health when they come back out on the field. There was no injury report on Antonio Brown any point of the game.
You're saying that the sideline reporters are in depth and in tune to actually what's happening in the game?
Yeah.
Are they there just to ask a question? Hey, coach, how do you feel?
No. Well, no. You get injury updates during the course of the game when somebody leaves.
On somebody you see running off the field into the tent. If he just leaves with the team.
Antonio Brown, if he was hurt or he was hobbling somewhere, sideline reporters would be all over it. If it was the Jets' Vincent Smith that was left hobbling and walking off the field, nobody's reporting it. But Antonio Brown's got the name recognition, the brand.
Only if they see him run into the blue tent. Or only if they see him run into the locker room or get carted into the locker room.
No, because I saw players that came off that they were talking about their ankle. Not necessarily the Jet game, but that weekend, when I was watching games, and they talked about the guy's ankle. He went off the field, and the cameraman were on him. They were on it, and
Now
then
that you're on the podcast, look at you kissing up to the media. Look at you. Hey, you're trying to parlay this podcast, trying to get in the booth now with since Al Michaels is trying to get in there with Collinsworth. Is that what you're doing over there?
It's Collinsworth. I want to replace Collinsworth.
You want to be with Peyton?
Yes.
Eli?
Yeah. Yeah. I can replace Eli.
but at the end of the day, so we don't know what happened, right? And again, I'd love to find out if he came out after half. But this is where all of a sudden, this is where it really starts to get cloudy, and the only side you're going to believe is whoever you want to believe, right? So supposedly, Arians goes to AB and says, "Hey, I need you to get back in the game," right? AB responds, "I can't. My ankles bother me. I'm not 100%. I need to sit this one out." According to the follow up, Arians then says, "If you don't get back into this game, you're off the team." Okay, that's a little harsh. And according to AB said, "Oh, really?" And we saw the result. We saw the result, right? Now, bad ankle, then all of a sudden he's running through the end zone and running down the sidelines, jumping up and down. There is something to that, but keep in mind,
AB was just afraid to go out the rest of the game against the Jets. He was getting thrown around, beat up, and he just didn't want to go back in the game. He was afraid. He was afraid to go back in the game. Why? How come we don't talk about that angle? How come that angle's not even brought up?
You have one job
for the JETS.
One job. I asked you to put one player into retirement, not AB.
You told me to put Drew Bledsoe into retirement, and we did.
And last podcast, I told you to put somebody else into retirement. And you guys got that. You can't even get that right.
We weren't healthy enough. We didn't have our bruiser.
You couldn't get that right.
Actually, we had a chance. And Quincy Williams, I blame you. You had the shot and you didn't take the 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, you're right, Dana. You're absolutely right. It is because of his attitude.
Come on, man, you're killing me over here.
Yeah, look at Dana, just whipping out the football facts. So at the end of the day, here's what I'm troubled by, Stevie D, is that so many people are ready to back Bruce Arians in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right?
Well,
I'm not saying that, and we know that AB is not a saint. We know that. We know that his actions all the way back to Central Michigan, through the Pittsburgh Steelers, to the Oakland Raiders, to the New England Patriots, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? On field and off the field. We know this, that he has a history. We if you look at the card is long, right? Of all the things that he's done. But you have to judge each situation on that situation.
Right, but one card we didn't play?
Which one?
They signed Le'Veon Bell. There's some history between Le'Veon Bell and Tony Brown. How do we know Le'Veon Bell wasn't in the locker room saying, "Hey, I'm going on Twitter," right? And AB said, "I had enough of this. I'm not playing. I'm not playing with Le'Veon Bell."
Very well.
I told you not to sign Le'Veon Bell. Told you not to sign him.
Very well.
Yeah, but I mean, in fairness, we don't know, and everybody has speculates one way or another. Bruce Arians, he's a player's coach, right? I think that's already been established. He's a player coach. So for him to do what he did, to go against a player that he doesn't seem that way, I just wondered if Arians' tone to him was off than normal because Arians was embarrassed.
Very well could be.
Right? Because Arians took a lot of heat for not cutting him.
That's right.
Right. They say Arians took the heat, not Jason Light, not the owners of the Buccaneers. Because if you had, what's the word I used before? Morals, what he did, the lie about the vaccination card, to put teammates possibly at risk and to be selfish, not to tell the team that I am. So now you went around without a mask, all because you lied to get around protocols or whatever the case may be. And you put your teammates, you put staff members, office members, anybody at risk because you lied. And so you embarrassed the organization, you embarrassed the coach. And I wonder if there was a little bit more undertone where Arians was just did not care, and maybe his tone was really bad. And Antonio Brown's like, no, I'm not taking that.
Especially if you're losing to the Jets. You know he's frustrated and aggravated.
Sure. Yeah.
You think I'm dead serious.
I'm dead serious too. You're losing to a team that you should not be losing to at 14 points with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. You're absolutely right. That's not a game the Buccaneers should have been losing. They were double-digit favorites, right? We talk about it all the time when you play down the competition, right? You don't study as hard, or you studied, but it's the Jets. We're just going to go in and we're going to cakewalk, and then all of a sudden you get punched in the mouth, and all of a sudden the game is not going your way. What's the old saying? You give a bad team a little bit of hope. Buffalo knows about it this year. You give a team a little bit of hope, it can come back to bite you. You let a team hang around, and so I definitely think there was some of that. I know I was joking and having fun with it, but at the end of the day, I'm very serious about it. I think you're on about that. There's frustrations that happen, right? Yeah. Aaron, then you're down by 4, but at the end, where was the coaching staff?
We're all guilty of it, where you've had a bad day, you feel pressure mounting, and you just snap. And you don't mean to, right? That's not you're out of character. And then once you kind of take a step back, then, a lot of times you're able to mend those fences and be like, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean that.
Right. And I don't know Bruce Arians. He could have been pissed off and said what he said, but did he really mean it? Right? Because how many times you say, I say something to my son all the time. I mean it, right? And so you wonder, in the heat of a battle, the coach says something that he shouldn't have said, and Tony Brown took it, literally.
Richard, I'll mark the tape for you.
So, but I mean, it's fair, and perhaps Antonio Brown was hurt, and it was more serious because ankles obviously are very big for Antonio Brown because of the way he's got very good route running skills and footwork. So they're very well, could be. So
I agree with you, Dana. I do agree.
They go back to that. The Jets just frustrated him, and he just went off and he left the game. I think this is all a lie by Arians and the team, and they're coming up with this story of ankles, and I told him to get off the field, and I just think the Jets frustrated him, and the Jets said, get off our field. You don't even deserve to be on this field. That's how bad you are. You just get off our field. And he left because he realized 3 catches for 26 yards. You know what? I'm out. You're right. I don't deserve to be on the field. And he left. So I think that's what really happened.
I don't know if we're ever going to really find out exactly what happened. And just like everything else, right? Things are going to die down. And, this will just be just like Vontae, right? You forget about it, right? And then you move on, and then something happens. You may try to go into the archives or search Google, and all of a sudden you see this. But at the end of the day,
I got a tweet. There's a tweet out by Le'Veon Bell. I told you I was going to get you, Antonio Brown. Wow. Bell's laughing that he's on the team and Brown is cut.
Ladies and gentlemen, the comments from Stevie D are solely that of Stevie D. He has a burner account with an unverified Twitter. So any of those comments.
Breaking news.
Not from Official Word Sports, it is. Let's see what Dana has. He's 34, and after he looked around last season, no one wanted him. He and his history have lived up to his rep. Yeah.
So, look, I think the way he handled it and he walked off, sure, I think was not the right way to go about it. But again, what was said, what was at halftime, I think there's so many variables.
But no, the player. This should not shock anybody knowing the player. right? We have seen his antics time after time. To say that,
But it doesn't mean that the organization and what happened on the sideline that transpired. We don't truly know what transpired on the sideline. I'm not saying that you shouldn't act like a pro.
well, I think Dana's referring to the way that he left the field, right? And to
Well,
that,
giving our fans some memorabilia. I mean, why are we so great? I mean, he
well,
got shut down, and that was part of what the Jets said. You better take a year off and just throw it up to the fans.
and Robert Salah is ready to sign him next year to the Jets. Right? Denzel Mims out, Antonio Brown in, right? But again, know the player that it shouldn't be shocking. But I will say there are reports from Josiah Anderson because here's one more piece of this puzzle. The Buccaneers haven't cut him. They haven't released him, right? Arian said, that's it, you're off the team. They haven't done anything. Now, we talked about this before the show. My contention is I'm in the stretch drive. I have a 53-man roster. I need all 53 of these guys, especially with COVID. I need all these guys. I need every roster spot position available, right? So why am I holding on to dead weight? Well, you're holding on to dead weight because you don't want somebody else to get them, right?
Yeah,
Basically
call it what it is. That's what it is. It's a suspension without being suspended by the NFL.
But who are you hurting? You're hurting yourself.
It depends. If you all of a sudden gets an IR designation, you're not hurting anybody.
An IR designation for what, though?
For his ankle injury. He said he's got an ankle injury.
Okay, so then why did you say you're off the team? He said I can't go because of my ankle. Now, all of a sudden, magically, you're going to say, oh, well, we're going to put him on IR.
The NFL has stepped in. A higher power has stepped in, and they don't want to see Antonio Brown on the sideline for another team.
Is that off of your burner account that you have over there?
No, I really do believe that there are situations where teams have to take one for the shield. And I think this is one of these examples that they're taking one for the shield. It's a suspension where you're not going to suspend him. He's not going to play. He won't get his roster bonus, and he won't get an opportunity to play for another team this year.
No, this is true. Buffalo was subject to the exhibition game 4 times in a row based on the requirements from the Shield that they wanted to see success from the NFC East. Yes.
That's right. You lost 4 to the NFC East. Oh, my Lord.
That's right.
You don't have you can never make fun of another team from the NFC East.
Oh, the Eagles.
The Eagles couldn't make it against you guys.
That's right.
And the Eagles, if I remember correctly, man, they had some good teams at that point.
They had Randall and Fred Barnett and Reggie. Yeah.
Fred Barnett was there at that point? Yeah. Oh, he caught that bomb.
Yep.
From Cunningham from like the 2-yard line or whatever.
Yep.
It was like a 98-yard pass play. That was Fred Barnett.
Against who?
The Buffalo Bills.
That's right. That's right. So, all right. We've put a bow on this one. Again, this is on our January 5th. Happy New Year. Oh, my goodness.
We didn't even say Happy New Year to everybody. We just got right into Antonio Brown.
Right into AB. You see what happens? Everybody, all of our listeners, all of our subscribers. No, it's not. Never too late. We want to wish you sincerely. We hope everybody had a happy New Year. Everybody had a safe New Year. And we welcome you to the 2022 version, the Deuce version of Official Word Sports, OWSports.net as well.
Before we get to the Buffalo Bills, since we were talking about the Jets-Bucks game, if I can just finish up.
Oh, no, please.
Thanks. I think Zach Wilson again, another week, another strong improvement. No turnovers again. We're seeing that progression week after week. Smart decision-making with the football, taking what's given. He's made some really good throws this week. Odd angles to get around the leaping linemen, to hit the receivers in strides. Just really good, again, good decision-making, except for that 4th down miscommunication. Salah's taking the Heat are taking the blame on that one on Zach Wilson. It was I was not happy with the play call, and then I heard that it was he could have pitched it to the wide receiver in motion, but he decided to keep it. But outside of that one play, we're seeing progression out of him, smart decisions.
Let me ask you a question. In all fairness, no jabs or anything. Can you really count it when the Bucks are not playing with their A team, especially from the
Yeah, but you know what? I got 22 people on IR. I mean, teams are injured. You can't use that excuse. You're going against NFL players, right? Next man up, right? Because if that's the case, every team has an excuse, right? What if the Jets had everybody on their roster? Nobody cared that Mekhi Becton was out. George Fano, backup left tackle, was out, and we were going with a third string left tackle. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about it. We didn't have Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder. Nobody talks about Michael Carter got a concussion in the first quarter. Nobody's talking about that. So I don't want to hear nothing about the Buccaneers. Don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it.
Wow.
So as I was saying, and the other thing that I think it's gone very quiet is that the Jets went from the 32 ranked offense after week 5 or week 4, right? The worst rated offense to be 21st in the league in total yards. Nobody's talking about that. And I think that's a lot of credit to Mike LaFleur going up top.
What about Mike White?
Well, Mike White was a big help, right? He got the party started.
He got it started.
Right? He got it started. He got his Hall of Fame, man. He's in the Hall of Fame, Mike White, right? But in all seriousness, and I know you can't take out the first 5 games or first 4 games, but if they're ranked 21st right now in total offense, and you take away those, actually the Jets are actually doing pretty darn good offensively. And when you watch it, I mean, and Richard and I, my son, were watching it, like, man, what a difference than it was from week 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's actually fun to watch the Jets offense. And that's why I'm curious to see with your defenses that's, I think, pretty darn healthy for the most part, to see what will happen in this last week if again, getting creative and stuff like that.
You realize the Shield adjusted the settings and you're now playing on pro level. You are not all Madden.
We're going to find out.
We're
going to find out. Well, you know, we beat teams that you can beat this year. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see. If you want to go on,
are you guys still in the hunt?
No.
Oh, okay. Just
no, you can get those jabs in. Absolutely, take those jabs. Absolutely, we're just going to fuel that. So when we kick your butt this Sunday, and you go from the second whatever to the 4th seed, then we'll get the last laugh.
We're not the 2nd seed. We're the 4th. We're locked in at a solid 4.
Really? You're the 4th seed?
Yeah.
Yeah. What a joke.
There's a particular game, and let's segue over to those Buffalo Bills. So, Stevie D, I will give you credit. Because back, what was it, week 5?
We're going to be serious now. We're going to be serious the rest of the podcast now. No more jokes.
Well, I can't guarantee no more jokes, but
okay. All right.
I'm seriously giving you credit because right here on this podcast, Josh Allen takes a 4th down play as a quarterback sneak, slips. Instead of going up between the A or B gap, he decides he's going to go off tackle. The defensive lineman blew up the play coming off tackle, and Allen is stopped short, turning the ball over and thus ending the game and ending the comeback to beat the Tennessee Titans. I looked at it as a game where I saw heart. I saw the team come back. You know, I was like, okay, you can't beat every team. We had to go to the cesspool of the NFL, right? I gave all the different excuses, but I wasn't worried, right? That was our second L because we had that loss to Pittsburgh. But I wasn't worried. And as the season unfolded, and as we talked about on the podcast, one of the things you said is you let that one get away. That was a game you should not have lost. And you're right? Better execution, better play calling, what Dable was doing up top, the way McDermott was coaching on the sidelines. There are a lot of different things that should have happened that did not happen. And lo and behold, we lose that game. Well, let's fast forward, right? You've liked to throw those jabs in along the way as we've gone through this season. And we get to a point where seeding is now in forefront of everybody's mind, just like we talked about here. Second seed, third seed, fourth seed, what have you. If the outcome of that game, just that one game, had been different, that one game, the Buffalo Bills would be looking at fighting and potentially being the number one seed in the AFC because
So
they had
what they had
already
to do was take care of business against the Jets, and you would have had it.
absolutely because they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, so
All
they
right,
weren't.
so you won that tiebreaker. Yep.
They would have had a better record in the conference. They would have put them over the Bengals, and then they would have won the tiebreaker against the Titans. That one game, that one play, is the difference between the first seed having a bye week and having home field throughout to being the fourth seed opening up at home but potentially being on the road for the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, for me, that particular game, when you put it into that perspective, right? Because you would have won the head-to-head with Tennessee, right? Most people were thinking, man, they should have just beat Jacksonville, but that I don't think would have given you the same result you were looking for because you didn't have the tiebreaker. You needed that tiebreaker against the Titans.
Yeah.
For me, I went into the season in all seriousness about football. When you talk football, and we have banter back and forth with the Jets and the Bills. And right now, the Bills are the class, and the Jets are not, right? And that's just the way it's rolling right now. And I went into the season thinking the Buffalo Bills were the best all-around team. And so when that loss to Tennessee happened, when a game that I thought you had that game, I was more worried about your team going forward the next several weeks. And it turns out you went through a rough patch, right? And I can't definitively say that was because of the Tennessee Titans. It just something just wasn't right. I thought you led the game. I thought the play calling was not good there, and then it just kind of spiraled. There was some really wild lack of creativity. And it was just weird what we were seeing from Buffalo over there for a few weeks. I mean, there were weeks that you couldn't score more than 2 field goals in the first half. I think you had 3 or 4 games after that you couldn't score a touchdown in the first half. When you look at Buffalo's offense, I don't think you were missing anybody. Okay, you had some linemen down. But again, team's got injuries, right? You have to be able to overcome them to have the depth to be able to survive. Right, because those players will come back. As long as those players come back and you don't have to rely on your backups for 10 games, you can rely on backups maybe for a few games, and then there's a reason why they're a backup. But the lack of creativity, your offense was too good not to score touchdowns in the first half, right? Touchdowns, not a touchdown, touchdowns. When you look at that offense, when that is going, it's just a totally different offense. And I sent you a text last night. I don't know if you got that text about the difference between the 2020 Bills versus the 21 offense. I mean, you can see that stuff is down. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah. Well,
the percentage is down quite a bit.
I'm going to tell you the biggest factor between 2020 and 2021 is coaching, right? And I keep harping on it, and maybe this is a lesson to be learned from McDermott, Dable, Frazier, the rest of the staff. I think Leslie's been around long enough, and he should know. But expectations were completely different in 2021 than what they were in 2020, right? 2020, you were still a wow. Josh Allen is this up and coming guy, and you had Brian Dable, who's this hot candidate, to be a head coaching candidate or, big success going on in the future. You were still, Sean McDermott is really surprising us. He's, turned from defensive coordinator to head coach. So you had all of that, right? That season ends disappointing against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. But once that exhibition game had all zeros in it, right? You start the new season. In that new season, instantly, Vegas does it, right? If you look at the 2021 odds for the Super Bowl, the game, I mean, the grass is still showing the painted on emblems, and Vegas has already put the odds out for the following year. And those expectations come out for that following year as well, right?
Yeah, I also think teams look at you as an upper echelon team, right?
Absolutely.
And you become the hunted, right? And so you're going to get, I mean, it's the old saying, you're going to get everybody's best. Well, it's
Absolutely.
true because you want to measure against good teams. And, bad teams can play up. You don't want the good teams to play down. And that's kind of what sometimes happens
Absolutely.
against the Jaguars, right? A good team plays down, doesn't
Absolutely.
believe in their opponent. And that team plays up because that's your Super Bowl.
It is. You're spot on with that. So when I look at this year with the Bills and everything that they've done, I would grade them a B, and it would be a solid B, not a B plus, but they're better than a B minus. And a B typically is going to be your fourth, fifth, or sixth seed, right in the division or in the conference. Um, I'm
You're
not happy.
being much nicer. You're being much nicer than I would grade them.
Well, this is overall because if I look at the coaching is a solid solid
Okay.
C.
Yeah.
Because I think that Sean McDermott failed the team this year. I really do. Yes, they've been able to win some games, but the way that he is dictated and kind of run that sideline, I, there's too many opportunities that have been lost. Whether he's been very timid and passive in some of the challenges or some of the play calls, especially on fourth down, or if it's kicking field goals. Right, we've seen a different mindset over the last two games. But leading up to these games, we didn't see that. Right, we saw somebody that all of a sudden turned into the defensive coordinator, right? Not the head coach, but the defensive coordinator. And that's very concerning. If we look at Brian Dable, right? Dable's offense. Now, I struggle at this, DVD, because we've talked about this before. And here's why I struggle is that the game plan in the creativity of the game plan, sure, a lot of that is done through the offensive and defensive coordinators. But at the end of the day, you sit down at that table in that coaches meeting and you present what is going to be your plan for the upcoming week. And you get the acknowledgement and the sign off by your assistant coaches. Yep, we agree. This is what we're going to do. These guys are ready. But there's one guy that sits at that table. What did Hugh Jackson say? I sit in this chair, right? We can run that back. Good old Hugh. I sit in this chair, right? Well, you're right to that point, right? And that's got to go past McDermott. And if McDermott feels as though, everything is on par, then he's the one that's going to be culpable and held to what's being put out on the field. And if you feel as though certain players should be playing or shouldn't be playing, if you feel certain route concepts are maximizing the talent that you have on the field, you say, yeah, I'm ready to go with that, Brian. But if you feel as though, wait a minute, we're not establishing the run, or wait a minute, we're not going to Diggs enough, or wait a minute, all these different things, then you got to speak up. And he didn't do that. You look at what he did with Isaiah McKenzie, and you know everybody knew coming into this year that Isaiah McKenzie is a weapon, right? I'm not saying he's an all-pro weapon, but he's definitely a weapon. And they brought Matt Breida in to say that he's going to be your speed back, but you had a guy that could kind of change things up, jet sweeps. You could run him out of the backfield like they do Debo Samuels or like they do Cordell Patterson. You could do that. They don't do that. You can run him in drags and zips, right? You can run him off of pick plays, right? To free him up, bubble screens, right? This guy's got great speed. You also had Marquez Stevenson. Didn't use him. But let me go back to McKenzie. McKenzie in the Colts game. Now, leading up to that, he had ball security problems, but nothing egregious, right? But that Colts game was the last straw. But let's look at the game that you're using as the barometer for the last straw, right? It's a game that you gave up 200 plus yards to Jonathan Taylor. You gave up 5 touchdowns to Jonathan Taylor. But one of the plays, yeah, right? But one of the plays on a slippery field, on a freak accident, not that I'm trying to defend Isaiah, right? Ball security, it should be paramount. But the guy's making a cut, slips and falls on the turf, falls flat on the ball. Nobody touches him, meaning that you can't say that the ground can't cause a fumble, because in this case it does. And the ball shoots out. Not that it shoots out like any other fumble right next to you where you could just reach out and grab it. No, this thing shoots out from one hash mark all the way to the hash marks on the sideline, right? And not only did it go that way, it went that way towards the end zone. He was only at like the 10 or 15, and he shoots back like 14 yards, right? The
Right.
Colts recover it like inside the 5. Freak accident, but not to McDermott. McDermott takes that and says, "That's it. You're benched." Right?
So he channeled his inner Belichick because
His
if you
inner
fumble,
Belichick, his inner Bruce Arians, right? So instead of telling him you're out of here, right? He, he told him you're sitting on the bench, and he was a scratch, right? To the point, and it was multiple games where he's a scratch, to where now all of a sudden Isaiah McKenzie's putting stuff up on Twitter and IG, not saying anything, but like emoji type comments that allows you to read into it, right? But it was interesting, and you do that, and now you have hurt your team, right? You have a running game that's not really going well, and there's a weapon that you could have used. I say all of that to my grading for the coach of Sean McDermott is a solid C, and really he should be a D and raise the level.
where do you put Dable? Because from an offensive side, he's the one who's putting a game plan together. He's the one that's executing in the game. Because in a game, game plans are one thing going into a game. As the game starts taking shape and you get past the first 15, and the game is shaping up into the second and into the third quarters, those game plans have to shift, and you have to go to different things to shake things up and get the ball moving. So where is Dable in your estimation, his grade, when you look at how many games in the first half you scored, I'll call it 9 points or less by kicking field goals, right? And just games where you felt like, I can't believe we are not either scoring points or moving freely. Because I thought Stephon Diggs was null and void really the first half of the year. Like, he went from MVP candidate in the league last year from a wide receiver to
But he's quietly putting up numbers this year. Very quietly.
Yeah, very quietly.
He has put up the numbers, right? You're not seeing the splash plays. And on top of that, how many times, just as an example, moving away from the Bills for a second, how many times do they highlight all the catches received by Tyreek Hill? Right? You used to see all of these amazing plays. Well, some of those plays are still happening, but because it happens, it's become the norm, right? And so now, all of a sudden, it's not that big of a deal, right? But when I look at Diggs and I look at what Diggs has done, Diggs has had a very good season. One of the things,
but Diggs has the ability to be explosive, and I don't know if the Buffalo Bills have used him enough in their play calling to get him the ball more.
100 catches?
Is he at 100 catches?
Yes.
Man, that's a quiet.
He's at 95 catches.
Because really, the first several, you never saw Diggs in any highlights anywhere.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because of lack of explosive plays. Like, Tyreek Hill doesn't have. He creates his explosive plays because they get him the ball, and Tyreek is just a special athlete where he can make yardage out of nothing and make a defense look silly. He is something to watch that way. And I just look at Diggs, and he had a couple of games where he went off. I think this year maybe 2 games he had stellar receiving yards, like 150 plus. But it's been a very quiet 95 catch season.
Very methodical down the path. The interesting thing, and I would love to see the full breakdown, right? Because I'm like, well, where else is it going? Well, a lot of it's going to Dawson Knox, right? So Dawson Knox picked up in there. Emmanuel Sanders had a big role where he was a high target man early on. And then, of course, Isaiah McKenzie with, the 12 targets, 11 catches a couple of weeks ago.
Look at the names you just mentioned. Just stop and think about the names you just mentioned. And we're talking about the Buffalo Bills not scoring points.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is kind of mind-boggling. When you look at it from like the 50,000-foot view, you see all of these weapons, you see all these assets, and you say, where do you grade Dable? Well, Dable has to take some responsibility, right? I'm not willing to put the onus on the players in not performing it. It's on Dable and the play call, but Brandon Beane's got to take some responsibility as well, because I think that he failed this team when he really did not solidify that offensive line.
Well,
Right?
when you talked about that, right? You've said it in the past about your role players or your bench players having that depth, right?
Yeah.
You have to have that depth if you're a championship team. Look, we saw what happened to the Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl. Their offensive line was banged up, and their secondaries. Some people say their third string guys couldn't hold up. You're right; they couldn't hold up, and because they didn't have the depth on that side of the ball. They put everything on the weapons. They had weapons all over the place offensively, but
Mm-hmm.
right, but they had nothing from a line perspective, and it came back and bit them in the butt not having that depth. And you've talked about it several times. I know, either on the podcast or I know we've talked about it a lot of times.
Yeah.
Between you and I on the phones and texting about that lack of depth comes back to bite you, and
So
that's definitely hurt you today. What you have? You missed your guard and a center for a while.
there,
Feliciano was one,
actually,
and
Morse has been in there, I think, all season. But yeah, we've had interchangeable pieces from left tackle, left guard, right tackle, and right guard, right? And I do give them credit. They've been trying to find the right combinations. I think we thought Feliciano was going to be the guy. I like the guy because he has kind of like this whole demeanor, right? That Richie Incognito, just
an
the big
Italian,
nasty type.
Italian,
There you go.
Italian.
But he, all tatted up, ready, looking like he's ready to go to war. But something's a little off this year with him, right? Can't
Well, I
can't.
thought he was injured coming into the season or something like that. His shoulder, was it? So something I thought he had some injuries going on.
Yeah, so he has been battling injuries, and
Yeah.
that's true. But he's still not the same guy that we saw last year, and that's important as well. I do going back to Bean. I do think that Bean missed many opportunities to upgrade, and I think the upgrade would have impacted the running game, right? In the running game, one of the things that again, which keeps Dable at a seat. Yes, we love seeing Josh pass, and I'm not calling for us to be a 50-50 split. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that you have got to establish the run game. You could be, a 70-30 pass or 65-35 pass to run ratio, but you have to establish it. You have to have them take you serious when you line up with that running back in the backfield, right? If they don't, then they're able to alter the type of defense that they're going to play, whether it be playing more nickel or playing big nickel in some cases, but dropping out of the traditional 4-3 or 3-4, and now all of a sudden, they can rely on their front four to be able to penetrate. It goes to the offensive line, it goes to the running backs, it goes to the scheme. The one thing I will say that I have noticed over the last couple weeks is that the blocking scheme has changed for the Bills. And in changing, we've started to see more
Right.
splash
Yep.
plays and better run production. Out of that, Stevie D, what was interesting, if you looked at the All 22, and just looking from that coach's vantage point, there were a lot of holes that either Singletary or Moss were missing, right? And this goes back to the quality of back. No disrespect, guys are running hard. You're good, but these guys, Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, they are not featured. They are not number one backs. Said that before. They are not. Yes, they can give you production, but they are solid number two backs. The Buffalo Bills need a number one back, no matter who it is, right? They need somebody to be that feature back, somebody you can rely on. Leonard Fournette was out there a couple years ago. They passed on him for whatever reason,
It's a
right?
bold prediction. Zeke Elliott will be a Buffalo Bill next year.
Oh no,
I'm just saying, Zeke
no,
Elliott is going to be on his way out of Dallas with that money.
no,
They got Pollard there. That's it. Looks like in the real deal.
no. It- no.
Oh, that's good.
I digress. Let's move on. Let's start that he's from Ohio State. Let's then move on that he's a Dallas Cowboy. Absolutely not. what I did hear, again, it's rumor time. It's rumor time.
I want a bold prediction from Vince Coles here.
Michael Carter coming to the Buffalo.
Which one?
The
Which
running.
one?
The running.
Okay, when you talk with the Jets, you got to be careful because there's two Michael Carters.
You can keep the defensive back. No, in all fairness, out of New Jersey, potentially Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, that's he's gone. He's gone.
I don't know if I want that.
I don't know if you want that either. He's not the same back. But the offense, the Giants are in shambles. So can you judge Saquon Barkley off of that team that's in turmoil? Because that is heart garbage right there. I mean that's what the Giants are. That's a dumpster. That's a dumpster fire. I don't know what you want to call it. It's bad. It's bad.
It is. So Stevie D, couple things before we wrap it up. I want to talk about the Chiefs Bengals game. Interesting game, right? Because we were going back and forth, and there's always the mantra of let them score so you can get the ball back, right? Especially when there's you don't have the timeouts, little time on the clock. Here we go. see, there goes Lamar trying to take it to OWS.
I'm starting to understand the Buffalo terminology now. So, I might not have grown up in Western New York, but I'm starting to get the terminology when Lamar chimes in here. So,
absolutely. But there's the mindset. Do you let him score? Well, here's the scenario. I'll let you give your take on it because I don't think I agree with that one, but I don't know if I disagree with that either. Right? The game is tied, and we're under 2 minutes, and the Kansas City Chiefs only have one timeout. Take it away, Stevie D.
Well, from what point? I'm going to take it away when they were inside the 3-yard line, and I think there was like a minute 15 left in the game, and the Kansas City had one timeout. And at that point of the game, I'm saying to myself, just let them score. Right? What do you gain by trying to stop them? You have one timeout left. They can either run the ball and tick down the clock, and you have less time and no timeouts, and maybe they kick a field goal or miss a field goal.
Hold on. How much time was on the clock when they had the pass interference?
44, 45 seconds, because I know they couldn't. Well, no, it was about 42 seconds.
I thought there was more than that because they took the knee.
Maybe there was. Maybe there was. I mean, if you want to call it what it is, 52 seconds. I don't know.
So, here's why I say that to you, because then you still have a minute with Pat Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill to try to get back in the mindset. Instead of letting you score that touchdown, if I force you to kick that field goal, right? If I force you to kick that field goal, I only have to drive 20. I got 25, 35. Well, you got to get 35 yards to make a legitimate field goal attempt.
How'd that work out for the Chiefs?
Well, no, not exactly.
Right, because it sounds like I'm playing, Monday morning quarterback, right? Because I know the outcome. But when Richard and I were watching the game at the end, because the Jet game was over, we're watching this, and I'm like, why won't you let him score? I think I said let him score at 42 seconds left in the game is when I said let him score.
But that was after their last timeout.
Yes, that was it.
That's where they.
It was before the pass interference call. It was definitely before the pass interference call, and I think it was when it was 3rd and goal. When it was, if I remember correctly, it was 3rd and goal, and I said, let them score. I couldn't tell you exactly how much time was left on the clock, but it was 3rd and goal, and they had one timeout. Because on that next play, they ran it, and they got stuffed to force 4th down. They had to use their last timeout. That's when they used their last timeout. And then all hell broke loose on 4th down with offsetting penalties, I believe, and then there was the defensive holding on the second fourth down retry that gave them the first down, and then they were able to take a knee,
But if
wind the clock
you're
down to 3 seconds.
you're in the driver's seat, right? You're in the driver's seat because even if I do get stopped, right? Remember that 35 yards I was talking about? No, that changes completely. You're 65 yards, right? To get into field goal range with very limited time, no timeouts. That's just not going to happen. And then you're playing for overtime, so you're really in the driver's seat as the Bengals.
Right, because it's like, do you take your chances with 20 seconds to try and get in field goal range with no timeouts, or do you give yourself a minute 5 maybe with one timeout to score a touchdown? And with all of those weapons, my head's saying to myself, just let him, yeah, it's easy for me to say. I'm sitting on my couch. I got nothing skin in the game. It's easy for me to say, let him score. You got all the offensive weapons and try your spot that way, because I trust Patrick Mahomes with a minute and a timeout with those weapons. Then I trust the defense to give me enough time to make something happen.
Yeah, but if the penalties don't happen, right? If the penalties don't happen, and again, we're playing if, could, wish, should, all that. You are looking at potentially playing the clock right. If they do kick the field goal, you have the time now to try to get down the field, right? I mean, if you look at it that way, you have the time to get back there, and all you have to do is kick a field goal, and that's all we want. We want the field goal, so we're still in the game.
Right? My fear was that they just weren't going to. My fear was the clock was not going to give them enough time, and with no timeouts, to get to the field goal range.
But you're not going to get to the end zone.
With that, correct, right? And Butker's a pretty darn good field goal kicker too, and he's got leg. Right, he can kick a 56.
I would take my chance on the field goal than I would on the touchdown. The touchdown's way harder. Way harder. I don't care what.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I also think that it's way hard for the New York Jets to score that touchdown than it is for the Kansas City Chiefs, right? The Jets were ranked 21st, but I'm sorry, I had to do it. We're not used to being 21st in the NFL in offense. It's been since Kenny O'Brien. No, it's when you have a team that struggles to move the ball downfield and have those weapons, you say, hold them, try and kick the field goal because you don't have to go very far. When you have a Patrick Mahomes-led offense, a Josh Allen-led offense, a Aaron Rodgers-led offense. I'm trying to think of some other high-flying offenses in maybe the Cincinnati Bengals with
you only need 20 seconds with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow.
Well, yeah, right. So, but when you have teams that can score quickly and have shown in the past that they can score quickly, I say put the ball in the hands of my playmaker and let's go for the tie, because right now I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know if I'm going to get the ball back. I don't know. And again, hindsight being 2020, it's always easier. I just know when I was watching the game live, I'm like, you gotta let them score and move on and get the ball back. And look, it's easy for me to say it was the right move right now because there was no time left. But that's when it was going through. I was on third and goal. I said, just let him score and get the ball back. I remember it was on 3rd and goal. Let him score because I want the ball back. And this time it worked out in my favor, right? In my thinking.
The one thing I will tell you that game showed, at least this year, Cincinnati is for real, right? Cincinnati, and what I mean by Cincinnati is for real. Not necessarily saying on defense, but that offense has all of the weapons that they need to be.
They have elite potential.
Oh yeah. They went from okay, it's Cincinnati to okay, it's Cincinnati, right? And it just got real.
Just like I said, I was right on at the end of the game that they should have done it, and it turned out we don't even know if the Chiefs would have scored a touchdown, but we don't know because they didn't get an opportunity. I will say that I was wrong on the Cincinnati Bengals taking Penny Sewell over Jamar Chase. And I was totally dead wrong on that one. Totally dead wrong. Because Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow has been,
you know what?
It's been fun to watch.
Let me applaud. Okay, and the reason why I'm applauding Stevie D is that early on in training camp and in mini camp, you had all of these prognosticators, you had all of these reporters, all of these so-called in-the-know guys, right, Ian Rappaport and alike, right, that were just killing Jamar Chase. Oh,
the drop passes,
he can't
right.
catch the ball this. Oh, it's because it doesn't have stripes. Oh, it's because it's this size. Oh, it's because the laces. Oh, it's because now this one has a shield on it. Oh, it's because the visor. Oh, it's the helmet. They came up with everything why Jamar Chase couldn't catch the ball. You know what? Jamar Chase is killing it. These last 2 weeks, just phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think Jamar Chase had something going on in his personal life during training camp, during the preseason, that his head was half in, half out, just because he had some off the field stuff with, I think, with a family member or something like that he had on the brain. And we all know, look, and especially a young kid, how many times do we go to work today and something happens in our personal life and we're distracted at work and we're not even playing in an NFL game, right? And we get distracted at work through right? You're a better man than me. But when there's distractions, you eyes not on the ball. And Jamar Chase has been, he got off to a little bit of a slow start in the NFL as far as like week 1. But man alive, how's he not first team All Pro? That type of season, right?
Think about this. Think about this. I know he's not going to get. I know he's not going to get the award. You have Micah Parsons and Jamar Chase as two of the most standout rookies, right? They weren't your number ones and they weren't your number two, right? Just looking at what they have done, you have an offensive MVP in my book, and you have a defensive MVP. Actually, you have a league MVP kind of with Micah Parsons and what he's done to the Cowboys. I'm going to tell you right now, Micah Parsons not being on the Cowboys are not in the place that they are today.
That kid is a beast. That kid is for his size, to see him manhandle offensive linemen that have 80 pounds on him is unbelievable. The strength that kid has is unbelievable.
Eagle fan is sitting there looking and cursing Micah Parsons, right?
Because he could have had him.
No. Well, not just that. And not just that he's in the NFC East. But Eagle fan is cursing because of a gentleman by the name of Mike Mamula.
Oh, Mike Mamula. Oh, you didn't go that. Sorry, Jay. Sorry, buddy.
They are looking at Mike Parsons like, that's what we were supposed to get.
Mike Mamula.
Yeah.
Is he Boston College?
He is, by way of Lackawanna, New York. Yeah.
Mike Mamula.
There's some stories that Elle may be able to tell you. I know I could tell you. Yeah, I'll never forget when he was at BC, and they're like, "Yeah, out of Lackawanna." We're like, "Huh?" Right? Because we played Lackawanna. We didn't hear any of this guy. And then all of a sudden,
that is the thoughts of Vince Coles and not of official sports.
No, that's the thoughts of the NFL as well.
Did he get busted for that?
Yep. At the combine, putting these freak numbers out, Eagle fan is like, "Oh, we got Mike. We got
Tony Mandridge 2.0."
Yeah. You can go along those lines. One other thing, Stevie D.
Yes.
One other thing. I know you're a big Aaron Rodgers guy. Yeah, I know you're a ride or die. I know that you really wish that instead of Favre coming to the Jets, that you would have got Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets. And you probably do wish that because you would have had a younger version, right? You would have had the
right.
There. Yeah. So I'm sure you do. But you got his jersey hanging in the man cave. Big Aaron Rodgers guy. So what Hub Arkish said about Aaron Rodgers.
Who?
Good, very good. I'm glad you said that.
No, yeah, but what was that guy's first name?
Hub Arkish.
Hub,
HUB.
Oh, Hub. Okay.
He's out of Chicago. what he said about your boy, that he would never, never, ever, never, ever, ever vote to put him into or put him in be the MVP of the
Yeah,
league.
it's like the Red Sox beat reporter that didn't vote for Derek Jeter that won't put his name to the
That's
face.
right.
Yeah, right.
What are your thoughts on that? That's your boy. That's taking a shot at your boy. Discount double check.
I hate State Farm, by the way, so you won't get an endorsement from State Farm out of me. But
well, again, those comments are strictly that of Stevie D.
No, it is strictly of
Vince in State Farm. If you'd like to come talk to me, I'm open, all ears.
Well, I will put my right to voicemail. Aaron Rodgers, I one, the announcer's just trying to the reporter is trying to get his name out because nobody knows who he is, and from what I understand, he issued an apology. He said he shouldn't have said it. You knew exactly what you were saying because you've seen it from other people make a name for themselves, whether it's Hall of Fame voters for Major League Baseball that do something crazy and then they go on an interview that you never heard before to give out a statement. So he knew exactly what he was doing, what he was saying. He knew what he was going to do with the apology. It was all planned out, right? The interesting part is why Aaron Rodgers, why do you need to respond? Let your teammates respond for you. I just didn't think he needed to respond and give merit to the guy. Because to me, once you respond, then you make it a story. The story is not responding and let it go away like the gnat that keeps bothers you. Just let the gnat.
I don't know those. I don't know. I'm listening to you there. It was a story whether or not he responded. It really was. Because everything that had transpired in the offseason that Rodgers was guilty of, right? Everything that transpired through the season with his vaccination.
The MVP award is about what you do on the field. I don't need to respond to you. Who are you? I probably don't even need your vote.
It was going to be a story regardless, right? This guy obviously is getting his 15 minutes of fame.
Right, and that's what I'm not buying into. I'm not buying. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm not buying into his 15 minutes of fame. Who are you? I don't even know who you are. Nobody knows who you are. Why would I going to give you credence to it? Like you're giving legitimacy to a story that doesn't need to be a story because it's the most stupid statement. I'm not voting for him because of I don't like him or whatever the case you said. It's not worthy. Now we're talking about it. Giving this guy more credence because he said something.
All right, stop. We're good. And we are off to a great deuce, right? It is the deuce. and boy, we're gonna have 50 of these to go this year, huh? Woo! Oh boy. Well, we're gonna wrap this one up.
No. I want you to finish your statement on it. Don't let me be the last word on bum, hum.
I'm good. I just like. I think Rodgers called him a bum. Yeah, I'm good with that. Right.
I have no problem with Aaron Rodgers calling him a bum. I just don't think he needed to say anything or pay any credence to it. Who is that guy?
Thanks, Dana. No, I'm good with it. Yeah, I just to your point, right? Just like when there is some sort of active shooter or somebody that's done something like a mass shooter or something like that in the news, they won't put the face and things like that.
The guy running on the field anymore during a game.
Well, see that they should put out because the tackle
is entertaining.
The tackles are the best part. Hey, if we break that, see, this is what happens. Don't get old, people, because this is what happens, right? You segue and then you segue back. But the best part of the guy's on the field, right? The guy takes off and he starts running. Everybody looks like, ooh, shock. Like, who is this guy? Then there's always a couple guys just standing around, and then here comes security. Security is usually always these big, out-of-shape guys that are like gasping for air after they've run 10 yards, right? So now that gives the streaker, right, time to, zigzag it and makes it. But now he's starting to run out of breath, right? And this is where it all happens. Because then there's usually this one security guard who is just jacked, right? There's always that one. He's not going to outrun you in the race, but he's got you on the angles. He's watching you. You're slowing down, and you're not seeing him. And that's what happened every single time. And then, bam, right, done. Or as in honor of the late John Madden, boom, right, done. Right?
He got knocked up. Out.
It happens every time. And that is so entertaining. That is so entertaining. But no, now I digress. And let me go back to I do want to say, and I know we didn't start the show off saying it, I do want to say, as we wrap this one up, we wish everybody a happy and prosperous Happy New Year. I know we're a little late saying that. Hey, El, thanks for coming on. The countdown has begun. And you will find that show on OnlyFans.com. but we want to wish everybody a happy New Year. We hope that everybody stays safe, stays healthy out there, and prosperity throughout the new year. Want to wish my Bills nothing but success in the year 2022, and health for my Buffalo Bills as well. Exciting times coming up. We have the last game against the Jets, and then the playoffs, and hopefully we make it to the exhibition game. Again, it is the exhibition game. But let's understand what it is, and if you have any questions, you can hit me up at Real OWSports. I'll explain the whole exhibition game thing. Sooner or later, people are going to understand and buy in.
I can't get off this show now without explaining something here with this exhibition game. Okay, so now we're going to have to interrupt, and the show's going to go even longer. Okay, but let's call it what it is. It's an exhibition game until you win it, and then when you win it, you won't call it an exhibition game anymore.
It's still an exhibition game.
I've
laid out why, right? And for the longest time, I called it the Super Bowl. It was the Super Bowl, right? Yeah, and for the longest time, I believed that we lost the Super Bowl, right? That's all well and good. I still feel as though what they call the Super Bowl, we lost. I'll be the first to admit that. But let's call it what it really is.
Please do. The floor is yours.
You go through the playoffs, just like we're talking about the seeding, and you get to the last playoff game, and that's the championship game. Okay. Leading up to that championship game, there's no big overt fanfare for that, right? There's no big change to the national anthem. You do have the flyover, but every game has a flyover, so that's
the Jets got every game. Yep,
exactly. But it's not the special flyover, right?
The Jets are in every game.
Yes, but the special flyover. So you have all of that.
The Jets?
No, not by the Jets. So then you have that. You have the interviews, and you get a trophy. Right? You actually end up getting rings too later on. Then all of a sudden comes what they want to call the Super Bowl, that I call the exhibition game. Because how does it kick off? It kicks off with the media watching you fly from your home city. It kicks off with the media following you as
you can't handle this?
No.
Attention span like a
this is how it starts. The media is there as you fly into the new city. Okay. Then you have media day, where there's all big fanfare about media day, asking you some of the dumbest questions. How long have you been a black quarterback? Huh? Right? That's what you're going to ask me? That's what they asked Doug Williams back when Doug Williams was at 84 or something like that.
87.
That's the question they asked him. Dumbest question in the world. And they continue to ask dumb questions or do dumb things, right? So it becomes a circus. Then come the parties. Then you have a party by this musician, a party by that rapper, a party by that actor, a party by this athlete. It's a big gala, right? And then after that, then you have Fan Fest. Then you have the awards ceremony. You have the awards dinner. You have the commissioner's dinner. Then you have the lead up to the game. Now it's game day. Let's get to game day, right? We've had a quiet 24 hours. Now we get to game day. Now all of this is just new and it's just overblown. Then you get to this game, and it costs $1,500 plus to get a seat into this game. Wow!
Not if you're some people I know, but I digress.
Fisher Wears Sports After Dark. Oh, line of thought just ran away. So now you're at the game. $1,500 for a seat at the game or more. Then you go through the national anthems. You gotta wait like an hour as they go through the whole national anthem, bringing the kids out on the field, bringing the.
I hear nothing but excuses, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm explaining. There's no excuses here. Bringing all these different people on the field, then everybody wants to grab this flag. Then they want to grab that flag. Then you hear, 3 different versions of the national anthem or 3 different versions of songs, and then you get the national anthem, which there's always bets that are taken. There's always bets that are taken on the length of the national anthem. You go through all of that, right? Now, after all of that's done, then we get the flyover. Not by always by the Jets. You'll get the Blackhawks that'll come down through.
It happened in one Super Bowl.
Yes,
In one Super Bowl, we didn't have in your Super Bowl.
That's right. So you get the Blackhawks that are coming through.
One time, 50-something Super Bowls. One time, you got to bring up the one game that doesn't have the Jets flying over.
That's right. And so then you have the fireworks, right? And now it's time for kickoff. Oh no, we have a 10-minute coin flip ceremony that you're standing out there, right? Each player gets announced and introduced. And so now it's ready to play, right? So now you do the coin toss, go through all that. You start to play. Part of the game that you're playing in is in a little bit of fog and smoke because of all the pyrotechnics, right? So now you play. Each television timeout now is longer than what it normally is because we got to get all these commercials in, right? Then we go to halftime. Now, this is all through here. Now we get to halftime. You have a certain routine for halftime. You go into halftime, you're in there 45 minutes because they have to go put up a stage, go bring up some act from the 1970s to get out there, that all the baby boomers want to hear and see. Except for this year, we're starting to see the trend bend a little bit because now
this is going to be the halftime show of all halftime shows.
Lamar, wait a minute. So I think we're done with everybody from mid 70s and 80s, and now we're in late 80s, early 90s. I digress again, but so now you have this halftime show that lasts for 20, 25 minutes. There's smoke. The smoke doesn't leave the field. You start the second half, and you can barely see 5 yards because it's like the fog game. Remember the Bears fog game?
Is that why Thurman Thomas couldn't find his helmet?
No, that's because Harry Connick Jr. and a member of his staff moved the helmet so that they could stand over there and put the helmet somewhere completely different. That's how that happened. Don't like Harry Connick since then. Yeah, I hold grudges. And so then it's a big gala, and you finish it, and there's your game. Thus, it is an exhibition.
No, it's a spectacle game.
Same as an exhibition. Thank you for acknowledging. Such as an exhibition.
Well, the word exhibition, I don't know, in my eyes. Wow.
You're really trying to push that after dark. Really trying to push that.
We got to get our sponsors on a road game up to Buffalo. That's really what we have to get our sponsors to do, so we can get a road game up to Buffalo. Right, Lamar?
Let me tell you, one of our sponsors would be like, "Oh, I'm in. I'm in. You just name it. I'm in." I'm not going to mention any names. Maybe some initials. AM. That's all I'm saying. But Lamar has already volunteered. He stepped up. I'm hosting. Oh, man. So, okay, CBD. Now, let's bring it to a close. So, again, thank you for everybody who has supported us for the last 4 years. And we're going to try to make this 5th one even bigger and better. And we thank you for sticking with us, going through the audio version, now to the video version. in the stream that we have. So remember to like, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a girlfriend, tell a neighbor, tell the barber, tell the mailman. Listen to OW Sports, Official Word Sports. We're here. We'd love to talk to you. And if you have any questions, any topics, you can hit us up at Real OW Sports, or you can go to our Facebook page, Official Word Sports. We'd love to hear from you. For my co-host Stevie D, I'm Vince, and we're going to talk to you soon.